Oh, there we go. All right, we're finally live. Love the technical problems. It's raining today, so I guess that is interfering with the worldwide interweb. So we've had some technical issues getting up and rolling this morning, but we are here now, and we've got some exciting stuff to talk about. So I'm here with the ever awesome Wendy Lee. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Good to be here. It's a good day for a rainy day.
Good.
So,
Good, good. Well, what are we talking about today? We got some big stuff to talk about, and this has come out of a couple of recent conversations. But it's something that's I'm surprised at that's been going on for quite a while. But what's the big topic today, Wendy?
so we want to talk about retirement and ask the question like, are you prepared? Do you even know what it looks like to be prepared for retirement? Because most people never actually run the numbers, or I think set, oh, if I have $1 million saved, I'm good, and there's no real plan. So, we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too that so many people, they number one, they think they've got all the time in the world, right?
Mhm.
So they don't really look at it, and then they think, okay. And a lot of people are under the misconception, and this is a reality. It may not apply to you, but keep in mind, we talk to people literally every day, and a lot of people are under the assumption that the big chunk of their retirement is going to be taken care of by Social Security.
Mhm.
And they don't really get around to planning, or they've heard this number of, oh, I only need to save 10%. And most people aren't even doing that, but 10% is not going to get it. A lot of different factors really have play into your retirement and whether you're actually even going to be able to retire. And so we're going to talk about that today. So grab a pen and paper, unless you're driving, listen to us on a podcast. Obviously just focus on the road. You can come back and listen to it later, but I would like you to take some notes on this. And as always, if you find value and get a little help from this, give us a little love, give us a subscribe, or, click that subscribe button, that like button, and share it with your friends. That helps our algorithms and keeps us coming to you with this free content. You can improve your financial world and helping you get healthier, wealthier, and wise. So, looking at the key numbers you need to know, there's a couple different factors you really need to look at. Number one is, what is your retirement number?
Mhm.
A lot of people, I just need $1 million. Not really, not anymore. Maybe your dad or your mom or maybe grandparents, but depending on their kind of retirement. And so what I like to have people focus on is really looking at, what would you like? Pretend you have an ATM machine in your living room,
Mhm.
right? And one day you're going to turn that ATM on, right? And it's going to start spitting out a chunk of change every month for the rest of your life. That's called your retirement, right? So
Right.
I tell people to start with that end game in mind and kind of plan backwards, right? Reverse engineer it. So in today's dollars, what would you like to have as your retirement money coming in every month to give you the retirement you want? And that's going to be different for everybody, right? You
Right.
may be a homebody who wants to just stay home and read books, which it's your retirement. So great, right? If that's what you want to do. You may want to be a traveler, right? You may want to go fishing all the time with your buddies, or maybe you want to take cruises and go see Europe and spend a lot of time on extensive travel. That's something that only you can answer, and you need to understand, okay, what would it take to have a fun retirement?
Right.
So with that, that's going to help you back into the actual big number. Okay,
Right.
well, what does that mean? Do I start spinning that down, this, that, or the other? So there's a common rule. It's a little outdated right now, but you're going to hear a lot of old school planners talk about the 4% rule, right? That's the other fact you need to consider, okay? Meaning, is $1 million enough? Well, I don't know. You don't want to outlive your money. That's the biggest fear, right? And you've heard that before, right? Wendy,
Mhm.
as far
Yeah.
as people being concerned about outliving their money. So that 4% rule, and really, I would lower it down to a 3% rule now, because you're going to net about 3% of your income. Well, think about that. If I've got $1 million sitting in my IRA, my 401k, 3% of that, that's what I'm going to live on every year, the interest, right? And a
Not
lot of people
happening.
right now, what's that?
Not happening.
Well, a lot of people are thinking, well, I'm getting a lot bigger return than 3%, or I'm getting 7 or 8 or whatever. Well, here's the reality of it, folks. And I'm just gonna keep it real today, because a lot of people are heading into some nightmare retirements and they have zero clue about it because their advisor's not telling them the truth. So if you have $1 million sitting in your retirement account, right? They want to keep it in the market. Why do they want to keep it in the market? Well, they make their fees that point and a half every year off you, whether you're winning or losing, right? And don't get me wrong, we've got, advisory stuff that we do as well with our financial company, but we try to put people in protected asset classes that don't have those heavy fees, right? And so you look at that, they want to protect your assets from loss. So they put it in low risk products, but keep it in the market, but they put it in a low risk. That's why I love annuities, right? Because you can get better returns, no risk, things like that, if it's set up properly. But looking at, the traditional market, they put it in low risk, but they keep it in the market so they can continue to charge that fee. But what happens is this, because it's low risk, it's also what, Wendy?
Low return.
Low returns, right? So you're going to go down into spin down mode. And if your retirement is 5 years or whatever, and think about it, that 3% of $1 million is only 30 grand. And if it's in a pre-tax setup, like a 401k, an IRA, 403b, that's 30 grand before taxes. Well, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket. No, you're not. Do you really think taxes are going to go down? Do you really think, and you're going to be in a lower tax bracket? Yeah, if you're only pulling out 30 grand, your retirement's not going to be what it is. So it's asking that question, the 4% rule, is that really going to work for you? And I think in most cases the answer is no. That's why I like starting off with, how much do I need in a monthly income to have the retirement I want? You've got to consider inflation too. Right. If you're retiring, in 20 years from now, if you need $8,000 a month to have the lifestyle you want in retirement, well, guess what? You're probably going to need almost twice that in real dollars to have the same buying power 20 years from now. Right. That's how significant of an impact inflation makes. I mean, give me some thoughts on that, Winnie. I feel like I'm going on a preacher rant here.
Well, you're definitely more the expert in this field, but yeah, I mean, the inflation piece is something that I sat with probably 3 financial planners and they never talked to me about inflation prior to working with you. It was not even a conversation. And so when I went through numbers with you the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, like I never thought about that. And then also, as far as like you were saying, I mean, $1 million in the bank, to think 4%, 40 or 3%, so 30 to 40,000 a year. Like, I mean, and I hear people on a regular basis say, oh my gosh, we finally saved up $1 million in our 401k. And it's like, what I've learned from you and what I know now, like the taxes that are going to be pulled from that. And like, it's not a dream retirement, right? For the way people really want to live. And so it's a rude awakening. I mean, and I'm not prepared either. I'm moving in the right direction, but I was in network marketing and I thought, oh, I'll just keep making money. And didn't have anything set up. So yeah, there's a lot of factors.
Yeah. And that's a big part of it too. And having a passive income business like, network marketing, and I know you do some great things in that, it's something that, that's another stream of income. And that's what it's all about. It's not the asset in retirement. It's what the asset that the income that the asset generates, right? That's the real draw. And that's what you're looking for. You're not living on the asset. You're living on the income that it generates. Right. So, okay, if I want to keep that asset in place, guess what? Well, if you're pulling out 3% to avoid a spin down mode, because think about it, $1 million lasting 20 years plus $1 million is really like $500,600,000 in buying power. Oh, don't forget, you got to cut the devil wants his due, right? His pound of flesh, the IRS. They want their taxes, is what I'm saying. So you look at that, and the other thing that people don't consider too, and I want to be real about this, is healthcare costs. 95% of us are not getting healthier as we get older, guys. And so that's a situation where your healthcare costs are going to go up. And I don't know if you've looked at healthcare costs in America. It ain't cheap, right? Yeah. And so that's something that you've got to be aware of. Do you have a plan in place to account for that, or at least protect your assets in the event that something happened. And lastly, going back to this is taxes. I'm sick of hearing you'll be in a lower tax bracket at retirement, and that is not the answer unless you take a massive pay cut. But reality is you've lost all your tax deductions going into retirement. You're not putting money in a 401k or a pre-tax situation anymore. You're pulling it out. You're probably not doing a lot of tithing and charity. You're donating your time, which now that you have the time and you believe in the cause, more power to you. That's awesome, but you can't write it off on your taxes. Mortgage is probably paid down. All mortgage interest is written up front, right? And if you have it paid off, guess what? And then lastly, your kids, you don't get to write those kids off anymore. They may still be living in your basement, but you're not getting the tax benefit of it. So going back to what you were talking about, with the network marketing piece, that's great to have a business in the retirement years in order to, get those tax breaks and keep some of them. So those are kind of the 5 key factors. What is your target number? Is the 4% rule or really the 3% rule going to work for you? Probably not. Inflation impact to your retirement, healthcare impact to your retirement, and what are those taxes? How are they going to, impact it? So shifting from that, those are the things to kind of focus on. What are some of the common mistakes? I've been doing this now for 11 years. I've been in finance for 30 plus, but I've been doing this for 11 years. So what are some of the common mistakes that I see? Number one is people guessing instead of planning. Right? Oh, I think I'll be fine. Yeah, I've got my 401. I'm doing the 10%. I've heard that out there. They said that, right? Who's they? Nobody knows, right? But they said it. 10%, I'm going to be fine. No, not really. That's why you need to have a game plan and not just guessing that it's going to work. I mean, you've been enough of these conversations. What are some of the responses you see when we ask the question, how do you feel about your plans to get to your retirement goals?
So that's literally a question we ask every single person that comes in the door. How do you feel about your plans for retirement and or plans to get there for your goal? And I think I may have had one person ever say, I feel really good about it. I mean, literally everyone is like, I'm unsure, or I think I might be close, or I'm nowhere close, or, oh yeah, I'm not sure how I'm going to make that happen. I would literally say 99% of the people we talk to are not where they need to be, or have a hope. I hope to sell a business for that, or I hope to, right? But no one actually has a plan, or they have a plan they haven't initiated.
Yeah. And that's the key, right? And, a lot of people like to sell hope, but you need a plan with it. Don't hope it's going to work out. Plan it to work out, right? Relying on Social Security, we talked about that. A lot of people, that's the majority, if not all of their retirement plans. And folks, that's just not going to cut it, right? I mean, first of all, IRS taxes your Social Security. That income's taxable. So, it's kind of like a tax, and then you get hit again because they don't have the money to pay for it. Part of our national debt, there's a big IOU sitting in there right now. You've got it's not going to be enough. Not to mention the amount you see. I know a lot of people, okay, I'm 40. Let me look and see what I'm going to get. Oh man, okay, well I can do that, and then you look at that. That's not today's number. Yeah. Okay, so that's a number today. But again, taking into the inflation piece into the conversation, it may only have about half of the buying power. And if you're younger, it's probably going to be even less. So that's a little bit of a misleading number, right? And then you look at, not accounting for longevity. That's the scariest thing to most retirees is not dying. It's outliving your assets.
And then they become a liability on their kids, right? I mean, I know my grandmother.
It may not be your kids moving into your basement. You may be moving into your kid's basement, right? Yep. And then, who wants to do that? Because then you're under their rules and all the payback from when you were their parent, and you live in my house, you live in my rules, right? Well, I don't want to live with my kid.
All my grandmothers, I mean, that's what they depended on their kids to support them. My great grandmother, she traveled around from place to place. But the thing now granted, they were okay. We took care of them. Not everybody has that, one. And two, they still had their health. You don't know what your health is going to be like at that age. But then, the final piece is like, I don't know about you, but like all the work I'm doing through life and all the raising kids, like I want to live life the way I want to live it in retirement. And I don't want to have to depend on somebody saying I can come be at their house or
I
where I
know,
can
right?
live, or you know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to go back to feeling like a child again. I want to have my independence.
Yeah, I tell my daughter that I'm extra nice to her compared to her brothers because she's my backup plan, right? If something happens, it's like, okay, well, I was super nice to you. No, I'm kidding. But that's a big factor in it, not accounting for that longevity. And then lastly is ignoring debt, not only up, through retirement. This is where, Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey, this is one of the things that I agree with them on is get out of debt, people. I'm not talking about your house. Okay. That's one of the things where we separate on our beliefs. But yeah, get out of debt, get rid of that credit card debt and stuff like that. Start stacking cash, whether it's crypto, real fiat cash or gold, silver, whatever. And there's a time and a place for everything. But really looking at get rid of that debt. Don't be carrying credit card debt. Now, don't get me wrong. Debt's a tool, right? I love my Southwest Visa card. Why? Because I love the points. I like to fly for free, but I get it, pay it off, usually in a month, sometimes two. But, it's one of those things that I want those points. But going back to the house, well, what do you mean don't pay off the house? Most people out there have a low interest mortgage, right? And I'm talking back when it was at 2.875, 3%, 3.25%, whatever. That is low interest. Time it with retirement, but don't pay it off early. Take that extra money you were going to put on your house. If you're 35 and you're planning on paying off your mortgage in 10 years, that's nuts in my opinion. Take that extra money and invest it, right? Get those 7, 8, 9, 10% returns and then pay off your and time it for your retirement years. Pay off the house the year before you go into retirement. That way you're entering retirement without a house payment. That should be the clear goal. So, those are some of the common mistakes you have. But, the big piece of it is not guessing and having that financial plan, right?
Yeah.
I mean, walk us through that real quick. Why is that so important, Wendy?
Yeah. I mean, well, sitting down with somebody that knows better than you. I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? We
more
can
educated.
read.
I mean, it's more educated in that area. Yeah.
I don't fill my own teeth, if I have a cavity, right? I go to a dentist because they've learned how to do that, right? And I think so many times, I mean, even in my own family, love you, Dad, if you're watching, but my dad is like, oh, just research it and ask my friends. And like, that's how my dad plans. And it's like, you're not getting
Bob by the water cooler. He looks successful.
It's like you're not getting an expert plan. There's so many things that you don't know. And what you don't know costs you a lot of money. When I heard that before, I was like, what you don't know costs you a lot of money. And so having a plan, sitting down with somebody, them seeing your blind spots, creating a customized plan that takes into account your income, your investments, your expenses, your goals, and help build a plan for you.
Well, and that's one of the things too, I'm sitting here, I'm 55 now, and I look back and I'm a DIY guy. Love DIY, right? Projects around the house, stuff like that. But I can tell you there have been multiple times where I have spent more money trying to do a DIY job and it ended up calling a professional after the fact to clean up my mess. Now I know, here I am, I've gone through life, right? Now I know it's when it comes to plumbing, I can do some basic stuff, but when it comes to connecting pipes and I'm expecting there not to be a leak, I'm going to call a plumber, right? Same thing with woodwork. I can replace boards, planks, stuff like that. But when it comes to building something, I'm going to end up going through twice the amount of wood and waste and stuff like that because I don't do it every day, right? So I'll stroke the check on that one rather than do it. And, there's nothing, big on that. You learn the lesson and move on. But with retirement, folks, you don't get a do-over.
Exactly.
You do not get a do-over. You do not get a second shot of, well, crap, I'm 60 and I don't have enough. I guess I'll go back and start all over again and do it again with a planner. No, you've lost the time, right? And so that's one of the things that it's critical that you sit down and get a customized plan. A lot of people listen to the radio gurus, Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, and there's others out there, Clark Howard. And I love them all to some degree, right? They've got good basic advice, but it's a one size fits all. Your retirement is not a one size fits all. Mm-hmm. If you're using an advisor from, companies out there and they come at you and it's they say, oh, I'm a fiduciary. So that means I know everything, but they're only talking about one thing. Guess what? They're selling you, right? And so it's something that you want to make sure that it meets your guidelines. educate yourself a little bit. Watch these videos. We try to educate people on, the basics of retirement and planning and building wealth, not just retirement. So understanding, what's the game? What are the rules of the game? And then that way you can ask educated questions. And rather than just say, well, this is what Bob and the 5 other people I spoke to last week are doing, you should do it too. One size fits all. So understand that, understand it, and get a customized plan on your income, on your investments, on your expenses in retirement, as well as your goals for your different accounts. What do you want to do with that? And most people don't sit down and think about it. And then starting sooner, even with small amounts. This is something I separate myself from the baby steps that, Dave talks about with do one thing completely before you start the next thing. Well, you lose a lot of time with that. I understand the logic behind it. Stay focused, just do this one thing, baby steps, right? But what ends up happening is it's really, 5-10 years down the road before you start getting serious. And that will blow so much opportunity cost at your financial plan that you've missed out. That's why it's like, okay, let's start a little smaller, but let's do the Napoleon approach where we're attacking 3 areas at once. And really, you can maximize your growth and your compounding time with that approach. But again, the sooner you can start, the better, right? And get to a point where you're saving 20% of your income. I know, I thought it was 10%. Yeah, if you start when you're 20 and you're religious about it, yeah, you could be okay. And you're going to be a lot better than most. But as you make more money, rather than turning around and increasing your lifestyle, increase your cash stacking, right? So that way you can have the lifestyle and retirement that most people only dream about, right? So what can we do about this? I want to be sensitive of the time. We're going a little longer today, but practical steps you can take today. Write this down. So number 1, understand what your retirement number is. How much would you like to have coming in? Retirement is not an age. I get people, I want to retire at 60. I get young people, I want to retire at 45. I'm like, why? Why do you want to retire at 45 and not work literally for 40 years? The second piece is, realizing that it's the number, not the age. The number, not the age. So start with how much do I want to have coming into retirement? Okay, as far as an income. Audit your current strategies. Do I have a 401k? Do I have a Roth? Do I have IRAs? What other investments? Am I doing real estate? What is my passive income? That's a huge question that you need to ask yourself, right? Am I using dividends to create that, or am I creating a side business? Am I depending on real estate to be my side income? Am I using protected asset strategies so I can get bigger returns during retirement with no fear of loss? What's my tax strategy on all of these? Am I paying taxes? Is some of this going to be tax-free in retirement? These are all the things you need to think of. So that's kind of step 2, audit your current strategies. Number 3, get rid of debt, right? Get rid of it, especially that high interest stuff, credit cards, things like that. Don't use credit cards to live on, right? Use it to make moves, but don't live on that stuff and don't carry that debt. That's a big piece. That's going to free up cash flow and put more money where you can start stacking things and start investing and have your money making money for you rather than your money making money for the banks, right? And then lastly, and most importantly, get a financial planner, right? Get a planner, build a strategy, and adjust it. You should be meeting with them, every year, 18 months, whatever the case may be. When you're younger, you don't need to meet as much, but yeah, you definitely want to take a look at all those factors and have a guide. There's a lot of different types out there. You have some where you pay up front, pay by the hour. You have some that, they work completely, I don't want to say pro bono, but there's no fee to sit down and have a plan. That's our company. We work kind of like real estate. The seller pays for it, not you, the buyer. And we've got a lot of different companies we work with. So we're going to build you the strategy you want. So if you do need help and you don't have a planner, help us. Or if you do have a planner and you want a second opinion, get with us too. Reach out to myself or Wendy Lee. We'd be more than happy to help you. The key is, folks, you can't just assume it's all going to work out, right? It's not going to happen for you. Don't just hope, like Wendy said, right? Plan for one, right? And I don't know, Wendy, again, I feel like I've taken up most of the time on this, but any closing thoughts from your perspective?
And I would say everyone listening to this needs to meet with us. I'm just saying, and here's why I say this, and it's not because of me, it's because of Jon. And sorry, y'all, there's an echo. We can't fix it right now. But sitting down with us because I went through several financial planners, and when I sat down with Jon and went through my plan, I was like mind blown of I didn't know any of this stuff. And nobody ever talks to me about taxes. Nobody ever talked to me about protected asset classes. Nobody, like, there's so many things that the traditional advisor who works for a captive agency, like, they don't treat you like one size fits all, but in a way they do. They have one path they go. And here we truly work with and show you things that will blow your mind. And so even if you have someone you work with, we can complement what they're already doing. So I would just say, book the call. It's free. That's all.
There you go, folks. So again, thanks for listening to another edition of Prosper in the Kingdom. Our goal truly is to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise from a biblical perspective. Take a look at, pray about it, but figure it out. God wants you to prosper. You're his children, right? We're his children. He wants us to be prosperous, not worship money, but, be okay and be able to bless others, be able to, bless his kingdom on earth. Mm-hmm. And so it's a matter of just, realizing that, and then getting people around you that are here to help and, that are aligned with your philosophies and whatnot. But do us a favor, give us some love, click that subscribe button, that like button, share this with others, and we'll see you next week for another Prosper in the Kingdom. Bye, everybody. Bye.